Hi there. Welcome to the Health Analytic Insights podcast. This podcast is all about creating a community of like-minded individuals who are passionate about the field of health informatics. I hope to share information and advice in topics such as health analytics, digital health, biomedical engineering, and data visualization in healthcare. And in exchange, I would love to hear from you, dear listener, about your experience and interest in this field. You can drop me a line at healthanalyticinsights@gmail.com, and this email, along with any references discussed during this podcast, will be listed in the show notes below. If this resonates with you, don't forget to follow and subscribe to this podcast, as I'll be releasing new episodes bi-weekly. On this episode of the Health Analytic Insights podcast, I recently received an insightful question from a listener who asked me, what do I think will be potential future careers in health informatics? So although no one can really predict the future, in looking at current trends in the business intelligence and business analyst field, and with standards such as the fast Health Interoperability Resources on the rise, improving connectivity between healthcare systems, we will be able to transform data from multiple sources, from patient-generated data that we get from our Fitbit to data from the EMR or EHR to help improve patient outcomes. So therefore, I think that the three jobs which will feed into this are the medical data scientist, the clinical data engineer, and the UX healthcare designer. And so in this episode of the podcast, I wanted to do a deep dive into these three roles, which I think will have a huge impact in the field of health informatics, and some of the skills that might be required for these positions. First, the medical data scientist. So data scientist is such a big buzzword. It's like the dream career of the 21st century. But I would say that the role of a data scientist hasn't really reached its peak in the healthcare industry. Healthcare tends to lag behind industries like the financial industry or the hospitality industry due to, of course, data privacy and security issues and interoperability challenges. So I think that in the future, the medical data scientist will be an in-demand job title. The medical data scientists could work at healthcare startups, and they might have both a clinical and technical background. There are some examples of doctors on YouTube who have a strong technical background and are interested in fields like computer and software engineering, so they would be perfect for a role like this. A medical data scientist works with large amounts of health data and uses tools such as R or Python to manipulate unstructured data into insight. This can be done by developing predictive algorithms, such as predicting the readmission rates of patients based on a multitude of factors, such as the type of condition they were admitted for, their age, and socioeconomic factors, to name a few variables. There's a lot of work also being done with natural language processing, which is a subset of machine learning, or an algorithm can analyze trends in language to make predictions. Natural language processing can be used to reduce the administrative load in clinics and hospitals, so hospital staff can focus on patient care. For instance, the use of medical chatbots is on the rise. And by the way, if you're interested in learning more about medical chatbots, I actually have a blog post on my website, healthanalyticinsights.com, where I delve more into this topic, so check that out for more info. So the use of medical chatbots has been on the rise to answer frequently asked questions when patients are booking online. And there are some cases where medical chatbots have been used to give individuals who are coming to the hospital an overview of how to follow COVID-19 protocols. So in addition, natural language processing can be used to uncover gaps in data quality when there are health records which might be missing key information to be able to link these records. Instead of having a person manually spend hours searching through countless records, you can use natural language processing to match records and help save time. So a medical data scientist will probably require a quantitative degree with a strong understanding of statistics or biostatistics. So for example, they should have knowledge of logistic or linear regression, and ANOVA, and other statistical tests, and have experience with R or Python or Apache Spark. Medical data scientists might work on projects such as developing predictive models to forecast health metrics, such as patient length of stay, patient satisfaction, and readmission rates by hospital department. In addition, a medical data scientist will also have to understand clinical terminology, and be passionate about advancing healthcare, as there will often be roadblocks. For example, ensuring the patient's data is secure and safe when it comes to implementing some of these algorithms to healthcare data. So what will be some similar job titles that you might see in place of the medical data scientist? So you might see things like, and these currently exist today, epidemiologist, methodologist, clinical informatics specialist, and a healthcare data analyst. These job titles might have similar skills to what a medical data scientist would perform. And if you're, really excited by the description that I've given of a medical data scientist, you might consider searching medical startups in your area to find available positions. And if you don't have any experience with R or Python, you can find some great free tutorials on YouTube, and you can also find courses that might be paid or very low cost on Udemy, Codecademy, and Coursera. Also, consider creating a clinical business intelligence portfolio to practice your skills once you start to learn R or Python by designing a practical solution to a healthcare problem. So again, you can visit my blog, healthanaliticinsights.com, to get a step-by-step guide on how to build your own clinical business intelligence portfolio. So the next career that I believe will be in high demand in the field of health informatics is the role of the clinical data engineer. So the role of the data engineer is quite prevalent today, and it is because you can't have data scientists without data engineers to build the architecture and the pipeline necessary to house large databases, which the medical data scientist or data analyst would use to produce these insights. So you need to build these data pipelines to take the raw unstructured data from labs, EMR or EHRs, manual entry, patient-generated data, and transform this messy data into a structured form and house it in something like a data warehouse. So it's important when building a data warehouse for a hospital or clinical organization that the data engineer has an understanding, again, of clinical terminology and of clinical rules of the organization. For instance, health card numbers should have a certain number of characters. And this is especially true if you have data that's being manually entered in, as this might result in many errors. So it's important to have checks and balances built into the system so that the data is of high integrity and can be used for reporting purposes. We are seeing many hospitals move towards the cloud. In fact, the Healthcare Information and Management Systems Society, or HIMSS for short, and this is a great website if you're an early career professional looking to learn more about the field of health informatics. They often have webinars and documentation that can really help you learn more about this field. So HIMSS surveyed 204 respondents in June 2019 who work for hospitals, and it was estimated that 79% of respondents stated the cloud is a strategic priority for their organization in the coming year. And so again, as we see more and more healthcare organizations make this move to the cloud, data engineers will be very valuable. They'll need to have experience with both applications which are on-prem and in a cloud platform such as Azure or AWS. And so what are some similar job titles to the clinical data engineer? This might include job titles such as the Hadoop developer, solutions architect engineer, ETL developer, and a data warehouse engineer. And if you're looking to start, people in this field usually have a quantitative background in computer science, IT, and or a software engineering degree. Valuable skills include knowledge of SQL or NoSQL languages, Python, Apache Spark, and there's also several certifications in this field that you can check out, including the Google certification and the IBM certification, and I will leave a link to those certifications in the show notes below. So before I describe the last career, which I believe will be in demand in the future of health informatics, I would love to hear from you. Drop me a line at healthanaliticinsights@gmail.com and let me know, what career do you think will be in high demand in the future? Okay, so the last career which I believe will be highly valued in the field of health informatics is a UX healthcare designer. So UX design right now is a rapidly growing field, especially in healthcare. And you can hear my interview with Dr. Rexana Maria Barbu, who works as a cognitive scientist and Lorraine Chapman, who works as a Senior Director of Healthcare at Macadamian Technologies, which is a healthcare software company, right after this episode, and I will leave a link to those episodes in the show notes below. So UX design in healthcare is critical as a number of mHealth apps and dashboards for reporting become commonplace in healthcare organizations. Even when we think back to 2020, which I know many of us have completely wiped out of our memories, but just think of the number of graphs and charts that we use to keep track of daily infection rate. Building reports and dashboards is key to keeping track of healthcare metrics and verifying the organization is meeting their defined benchmarks to improve health outcomes. So therefore, a role such as a UX researcher and designer is important, as we need an individual who's trained to think about the end user when you're developing any tech products or platforms to be used. UX designers will ensure that the final product will have value and will be used by reducing the barriers to friction for the end user when applying the tool or integrating the tool in their life. For instance, a simple example is to ensure the color palette of the product being developed is colorblind friendly, or ensuring that charts and graphs are understandable by clinicians so they can do their job effectively. So similar job titles to the UX healthcare designer include the product designer, visual designer, data visualization specialist, and UX researcher. And you can start if you're interested in this role by learning basic CSS, HTML, JavaScript, Power BI, Click, or Tableau. And project management skills will be key for this role because you'll have to be meeting with end users, getting their feedback throughout the design process, and managing deadlines from multiple departments. So this has been an overview of 3 careers which I really think we will see be in high demand in the future of health informatics. And again, I would love to hear from you, hear your thoughts. You can drop me a line at healthanalyticinsight@gmail.com, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you for listening to the Health Analytic Insights podcast. I'd love to hear from you about topics I should cover in future episodes. Please consider subscribing and leaving a review. Have a wonderful day.